Inspection, they said. My system recorded something else. I called it a line across my daughter's door. I won't name it yet. Just listen for the one sound that shouldn't exist. When you hear it, ask yourself if safety still fits. Routine safety inspection. Karen Drummond slapped an orange tag against my door, like paperwork could pick locks. The entry cam's red LED pulsed in her sunglasses. Upstairs, my daughter's smart lock chirped. One clean NFC tap that ran a wire through my spine. Refusal to cooperate will escalate fines and a lien, she said. Believe me. I'm Adrian Cole, I said, steady. And that sensor you're waving? It pings my server to the millisecond. Her eyebrow twitched. Power shifted. Just a hair, but enough. That's not an emergency, I told her. If you've ever felt that surge when you stop a bully at the threshold, hit subscribe now. I didn't just draw a line today. I made one years ago, over a hospital bed, with a hand I didn't want to let go. On Maya's doorframe, a pencil ladder of dates and stars climbs toward the ceiling, our ledger of inches and years. That room isn't common area. It's a promise with a lock. She went polite. Interior access is required for life safety. Maybe. But the chirp I just heard says something else entirely. And before this is over, the people who matter won't need my word. They'll watch what tried to cross our line, live. I build access control for hospitals and labs, I said. I know what life safety covers, and what it doesn't. My phone hummed, NTP locked, audit mirrors online, hashes sealing every event. The upstairs lock went quiet. I'd promised my wife I'd keep our daughter's room inviolably safe. On Maya's doorframe, a pencil ladder of dates and stars climbed toward the ceiling, our ledger of inches and years. The last mark sat a week before my wife's voice fell to a whisper. After the funeral, I stood under that doorway and swore the room would never turn into common area. Not for a clause, not for a cloned fob, not for someone who liked power more than neighbors. Karen lifted the notice for the lens like spectacle could replace authority. Final attempt, she said. Paper rasped the jamb. Inside, the air conditioner shouldered cool air into the hall. I pictured it sliding under the bedroom door and ruffling a loose homework page. The sound steadied me. Precision steadied me more. I'll appear at your hearing, I said. We'll start with authority, notice, and key custody. We operate under emergency provisions, she said, stepping back to control the frame. Show the emergency, I answered, and show the policy that lets you into my kid's room. Her jaw tightened. The cam caught her reflection. Lanyard, tidy smile, eyes that skipped my face and studied the hinge. She was used to folded arms and quick apologies. She wasn't used to immutable logs and an off-site mirror that didn't forget. I closed to the latch and checked the dashboard. The hallway feed held steady. Bedroom door closed, sunlight raking carpet, a dust mote like a held breath. Access events rolled beneath in clean rows, UIDS, timestamps, signature hashes, each chained to the next. If they tried again, I'd know. If they lied, the math would correct them. Across the street, the community playground gazebo simmered. Patterns lived there, in traded stories and low voices. I wanted more than a headline. I wanted the pattern. I pocketed the notice. Where are you watching from? I asked the lens. Tell me your city. Tell me how your HOA tried to step through your front door. Another soft buzz, mirror confirmation, clean, moved in my palm. Outside, a mower droned. A sprinkler ticked against a fence. My ribs loosened. The promise tightened. Karen's heels clipped concrete as she retreated to the sidewalk, already dialing someone who'd tell her what she wanted to hear. Good. Hearings made records. Records made truth sticky. I reset alert thresholds tighter than usual and felt the thrum, synced. This wouldn't be one on volume. It would be one on custody, time, and clarity. That was my language. That was the part of me they couldn't argue with. I locked the deadbolt and stepped into the heat. The street smelled like warm tar and clipped grass. I walked toward the gazebo, toward shade and conversation and the quiet, weight of other people's timelines. If there was a clone master fob in circulation, the edges of its story would be there, thumbed over, traded, regretted. The air pressed close, but the ground felt solid. Upstairs, the pencil ladder waited, a line of graphite that had outlasted speeches and threats. They'd chosen the wrong house to lean on. Worse for them, they'd chosen the wrong father. The next move wouldn't be loud, but it would be recorded. The gazebo baked in late light. I stepped under the roofline, and the air eased. "Adrian," Mrs. Patel called, corralling a toddler. "They're doing interior checks again. Window films, smoke alarms, even my daughter's bed, for egress." I opened a time-stamped note. "Give me dates, door tags, who knocked, what they said. Photograph notices on your porch with the address plate in frame. Email them to yourself for a server. Timestamp Jamal from Lot 12 rolled his sister's scooter to a stop. They find us for unapproved curtains. Lila's chemo naps. She needs darkness. Request accommodation," I said. "No diagnoses, just the need and their response. Keep it at the threshold." Mr. Duran unzipped a freezer bag full of orange tags. "Every week. Each one says final." They tried to look at my water heater. "It's in my bedroom closet. Exterior items can be sighted from public view. Inside your bedroom is another universe." Phones chimed, management update, voluntary interior safety walkthroughs. "Voluntary," Mrs. Patel muttered, "until they stand there with a clipboard." "Refusing a volunteer check can't become a violation," I said. "If they claim it can, record the claim and ask for the exact clause." Mr. Duran tapped a notice. "They keep citing Emergency Provision 7.4. Emergencies mean fire, gas, collapse," I said. "Not curtains. Not a teenager's room." My phone hummed. Mirror integrity, clean. Small win. A bike bell chimed. Sonia Pike from the management company coasted to the curb. "Afternoon. Happy to answer questions. Why are we fined for not letting strangers check smoke alarms inside our bedrooms?" someone asked. "Community safety," Sonia said. "Participation helps everyone." "Name the authority for interior entry absent a verified emergency," I said, "and the key custody policy for any master credentials used by vendors." "That's an operational detail," she answered. "Operational stops at a bedroom doorway," I said. "Past that, it's liability." Mrs. Patel lifted a notice. "I asked for proof of emergency. They sent a hearing date instead." "Perfect," Sonia said, a touch too bright. "We can resolve it at the hearing." "Good," I said. "Hearings make records." I flipped a tag and drew a grid: household, date, notice text, porch words, witness. "If you're willing," I told the group, "text me your dates and screenshots of messages. Leave medical details out. We're building a pattern." Lila's eyes shone. "They knocked during chemo. The nurse asked them to come back. They wrote us up for refusal." "Document it," I said. "Time, name, exact words. Keep the interior closed while you write, 'Let's not escalate,'" Sonia said. "We're neighbors." "Neighbors respect thresholds," I said. I pictured Maya's pencil ladder. Every inch earned, a reason to slow down and get this right. "I'm running an open log," I told them. "My events mirror off-site. If you receive notices invoking Emergency Provision 7.4, send a photo of the exact language. I'll align the timestamps. If their story shifts, the shift will show." Mr. Duran nodded. "I'll walk my row tonight." Mrs. Patel squeezed my wrist. "Thank you." "Please route concerns through the proper channels," Sonia said. "We're building one," I said. People gathered scooters and promised to email. Block was ready to talk. I could feel it. I slipped the orange tags back into the bag, photographed the bag on the table with lot numbers visible, and saved to the mirror. Sonia pushed off on her bike. "We'll see you at the hearing." I watched her ride toward the clubhouse until the lanyard stripe disappeared. Shade thinned as the sun tilted. I finished the grid, saved twice, and pocketed the phone. A fresh, voluntary walkthrough notice pinged the community feed. Voluntary only on the flyer. I stepped off the gazebo into the heat, aiming for the sidewalk and the next conversation. Patterns don't build themselves. We build them, carefully, piece by piece, until even people who don't want to see have no choice but to look. Heat pressed my shoulders as I left the gazebo and crossed the loop road toward the clubhouse. A white van idled under a crepe myrtle. Magnet sign, Halverson Lock and Safe. The side passage stood open. Warm vinyl, cut brass. On a plywood shelf, A handheld encoder blinked green beside two spools of blank gray fobs. The tech looked up, mid-40s, navy shirt. He straightened too fast and clipped his head on the interior track. Ow! Sorry, you need a recce? Adrian Cole, I said. Cedar Row. Your read? He rubbed the spot. Yeah, maintenance call. The encoder chirped, high, then low. Right attempt, blocked UID. Magic cards. Hot day to be programming, I said. Those spools look new. Reed shifted, putting his body between me and the shelf without quite making it a block. Shoulders squared, foot tapping heel to metal, heel to metal. He glanced toward the stucco pillar where Sonia's bike leaned. Got a schedule to keep. I hear you. I stepped back a half pace. I do access control engineering. That chirp sounded like a 13.56 right that didn't take. He blinked. From a beep? Patterns, I said. I nodded toward his laptop clock. You on NTP or whatever Windows ships? He looked, then away. Company image. I don't mess with it. His breathing changed, shorter, higher. He wasn't afraid of me. He was afraid of what this job wanted from him. I'm not here to jam you up, I said. I'm keeping my kid's room off a checklist. That's above my pay grade, he said, but softer. He lifted a ring of brass keys, set them down, lifted them again. Work orders vague. Management wants consistency. The encoder chirped again, bright success tone. He winced anyway and muted the speaker. You ever sign a custody ledger for master fobs? I asked. Sign out, sign in, names, dates. Operations handles that. You sign anything when they ask you to produce them? He chewed his lip. Sometimes. Depends. The van smelled like coffee gone sweet in the heat. A tiny fan pushed at nothing. He wiped his palms on his shirt and closed the laptop. The screen held our reflections over a file name prompt. He canceled it fast. The clubhouse private room buzzed. Sonia stepped out with a headset and a bright lanyard. Reed's eyes tracked her, then returned to me with a thread of apology. Not a villain, a hinge. I've got a hearing, I said. They're invoking an emergency clause to enter bedrooms. If you're asked to tap a door at my address while we're out, don't. Call me. His eyebrows knit. Interior? That's unusual? Exactly. He arranged 3 tiny screwdrivers into a tight horizon. I only install, he said, and even he didn't believe it. Do they tell you to test a fob on a passage with no one home? I kept it neutral. He sighed. If the management company schedules it, I show up. I don't write policy. Policy writes you, I said. 1 line at a time. A small flinch. He reached for the passage and didn't pull it shut. Hovered there, caught between 2 positions. Shoulders up like weather he couldn't avoid. Inside the clubhouse window, Sonia lifted a hand without really seeing us. Reed's foot found the metronome again. He looked at his keys as if they belonged to someone else. You okay? I asked. Yeah, he said, thin. Yeah. I stepped back into the sun. See you at the hearing. He nodded, relief and dread mixed. Guess so. He killed the encoder, slid the spools into a tote, and locked the side entry. The metal thunk carried farther than it should have. He stood another beat, then grabbed a plastic case and headed for the clubhouse with a forward tilt. I watched his shoulders. Not an enemy. A pressure point. The kind that gives when the right hand leans. The stucco threw back heat as I followed. The office beyond the glass held forms and phrases that pretended to be law. Fluorescence hummed behind the glass. Cold air breathed through the seam. If they wanted a hearing, we'd start with authority, notice, and custody. And put time on the Stan cold air and lemon cleaner hit me as the latch rolled and stepped into refrigerated air that smelled like lemon cleaner and paper. Fluorescence hummed. Sonia Pike waited with a tablet. Conference room, she said, moving. Inside, a narrow table, 3 chairs, and a pitcher sweating onto a coaster. Karen Drummond sat at the far end, legal pad squared. Martin Kell hovered by the whiteboard with a capped marker he kept, clicking click, click. I took the nearest chair and set a folder on the laminate. Requests, timestamps, notice photos. Karen opened. Mr. Cole, refusal to cooperate has triggered progressive fines. If unresolved, the board may authorize a lien. Noted, I said, sliding a sheet across. Written request for documents, authority for interior entry under the CC&Rs, the exact text of Emergency Provision 7.4, any policy permitting key or fob access to private bedrooms, and the custody log for master credentials. Also, all notices and hearing scripts invoking life safety for interiors. Sonia's tablet captured the page with a soft shudder. Will respond within a reasonable time. Define reasonable. 14 days. Make it 7. You've already acted under the clause Martin's marker tapped. We act for safety. Smoke alarms fail. Blocked egress kills people. Exterior observation doesn't require your foot over my threshold, I said. Inside my daughter's room does. If you claim a present emergency, call the fire department, not your locksmith. Karen's smile didn't reach her eyes. We've scheduled a compliance hearing Thursday. You'll have an opportunity to be heard. Good. Hearings make records. Put on the agenda the basis for interior entry, the names of vendors authorized to enter, and whether master credentials exist, Sonia typed. Added. I laid a second sheet. Chain of custody request. If any credential was cloned or issued from my address or a common area master, I want sign-out and sign-in records for the last 6 months. PDF is fine. Raw exports are better. We don't release internal operations, Martin said. You do when internal operations touch a bedroom, I said. Karen tapped her pad. Your refusal already triggered a $250 fine. Each day compounds. Your fine says voluntary walkthrough and final attempt on the same tag, I said. Voluntary can't be compulsory. Add that contradiction to the agenda. Sonia's eyes flicked to Karen. Noted. I placed a photo, today's orange tag with the house number plate visible. Metadata in the corner. The notice time is 2 minutes before a live tap at my daughter's lock. The UID isn't ours. Martin set his jaw. You're making assumptions about vendor tests. Then list the test policy, I said. Time windows, supervision, written consent, custody ledger. Sonia swallowed. We'll gather what we can. Gather everything, I said. And for Thursday, arrange a courtesy slot for Captain Dana Shu, fire prevention. You keep invoking life safety. Let's have the authority present. Karen shifted. The board controls its own agenda. And I control my front passage, I said. Sonia cleared her throat. We can invite the fire marshal. Thank you. Karen drew a line across her pad. Final notice. If you continue to obstruct, we'll proceed with forced inspection. Put that in writing, I said. Word for word. Date, time, signatory. Martin clicked his marker twice. Adrian, let's be reasonable. I'm asking for the paper that proves you. He stared at the laminate. Sonia's nails paused. Karen's pen hovered. I stacked my sheets, slid them into the folder. Thursday works, I said. Before then, send your authority and custody logs. If they don't exist, say so in writing. Silence won't be mistaken for consent. Sonia nodded. You'll get a calendar invite. Attach the agenda and the provisions you'll rely on. I will. I stood. A chill raised the hair on my forearms. Appreciate the time. Karen capped her pen without looking up. We're protecting the community. Start by protecting thresholds, I said. The hallway air felt warmer. The copier blinked awake and tried to feed a page it didn't need. Outside the glass, Reed angled a plastic case toward the counter, eyes not quite meeting mine. I pushed the passage and stepped into sun, the folder tucked against my ribs like something living that needed air now. Sun hit my face, and the folder warmed against my ribs as I crossed the lot. I didn't head home. I drove to the SecureNet Systems lab, the place where noise became evidence. 10 minutes later, I badged in. The building smelled like solder and old coffee. The bench light hummed. I docked my phone, pulled the mirrored archive, and rolled out the analyzer. First pass, time sync. NTP stratum steady, drift under half a millisecond. Second, device integrity. Hash chains for the entry cam, hallway cam, and bedroom lock verified end to end. Third, access events. 2 taps on Maya's doorway within the notice window. Unknown, UID both times. Let's see who you are, I said, mostly to the log. I ran the raw payload through a parser I'd written for hospital retrofits. There it was. Facility code mismatch, geometry that didn't match resident stock. The UID pattern screamed cloned card. A magic fob that accepted new identities with the right commands. Someone had written one and tested it on my child's interior. I pulled today's orange notice into a second pane and overlaid the EXIF time with the event ticks. 2 minutes, 12 seconds from paper to tap. Whoever posted the tag wasn't the tapper, 2 actors, or 1 actor with a friend. I built a timeline on the wall, notice photo with the house number plate visible, tap number 1, tap number 2, Sonia's. A voluntary walkthrough message. The moment Karen said final attempt. Under each, the hash digest in Sharpie so even the skeptical could see chain of custody was math, not mood. The analyzer flagged a second anomaly. ATQA/SAK values suggesting a backdoor-enabled transponder. Cheap, common, dangerous in lazy hands. I printed the report to PDF and to paper, signed each page, and slid them into sleeves. I didn't need drama. I needed a court to watch the tap the way I had. Live. Undeniable. Next, I simulated. I spun up a sandbox reader with a throwaway tag. Wrote and rewrote the UID to prove how trivial it was. I clipped a spare module to the bedroom lock's twin on my bench and fired the same tap sequence. The lock accepted the first attempt, rejected the second. Exactly what my log showed. Good. Repeatable. I built a read-only dashboard for court. 3 windows, hallway video, live access log, and a rolling checksum that would glow if anyone touched the dataset. If they tried me again during the hearing, the room would see it. I checked my watch. Captain Dana Shu's station was 9 minutes away if the lights favored me. I exported a clean bundle, logs, hashes, photos, test plan, and burned it to 2 encrypted drives. One went into my pocket, one into the lab's fire safe. My phone pinged, mirror integrity, clean. Small win, face flat. No victory speeches, just the next step. Before I left, I scrolled the community feed. Another neighbor posted a voluntary interior checklist. Bedrooms, smoke alarms, bed placement for egress. I screenshotted and timestamped it, then pinned it to the timeline with a line back to management's number. The pattern was knitting itself as facts found thread. I powered down the bench lock twin and zipped the sleeve. The lab went quiet except for HVAC and the faint tick of cooling metal. Maya's pencil ladder flashed in my head, graphite marks that refused to be abstract. That opening wasn't a topology problem, it was a promise. The evidence made it easier to keep. At the loading dock, I watched Sun throw long bars across concrete. I thought about Reed's foot tapping heel to metal and the way his eyes track Sonia. Hinge, not hammer. If I built this right, even a hinge would swing. I locked up, slid the drive deeper into my pocket, and hit the lot. The engine caught. The station's radio tower pricked the sky 2 blocks before the brick came into view. I parked under an elm, killed the engine, and gathered folder and drive. The glass panel to the fire station lobby reflected me back. A tired face, steady hands, the kind you need for work that has to be exact. I reached for the pull bar and felt the cool metal firmly find my palm. The pull bar was cool and solid in my palm. I eased it and stepped into the fire station lobby. Boot racks, a brass pole vanishing through a square cutout. The air smelled faintly of diesel and clean water. Behind the bay doors, a compressor thumped. I set my folder on the counter as a bell pinged. "Help you?" a firefighter asked, sleeves to her elbows. The stitched name read HSU. Adrian Cole. Consult about HOA emergency inspections. She lifted the half gate. Captain Dana Shu. Watch office is free. A wall map dotted hydrants on Cedar Row. Dana pointed to 2 chairs. Start at the top. HOA says an emergency clause authorizes interior checks. Bedrooms. They posted a notice, then my system logged 2 taps on my daughter's lock by a non-resident UID. No smoke, no gas, no call to you. She held out her hand. I placed the drive on her palm. She set it aside. Simple version first. In this county, the authority having jurisdiction for fire safety is us, not a private association. We enter for a bona fide emergency or with lawful authority. HOAS don't conduct interior fire inspections. Thank you. Smoke alarms up to date, maintained and documented, but they're using life safety to cross thresholds. What's the clause? Emergency Provision 7.4. I've requested the text and any policy. Nothing delivered. She tapped her pen. If there's an imminent hazard, smell of gas, visible flame, they call 911. We verify and act. We don't delegate that to management companies or locksmiths. I slid the printed report across. Time sync is tight. 2 taps minutes after the paper notice. Unknown credential. The pattern matches a backdoor-enabled fob. Dana scanned, then met my eyes. You build these systems? Access control engineer, hospitals, labs. Then you know chain of custody is everything. You preserved it. She circled the hash chain. Good. I pointed to her pad. Would you put in writing that the HOA isn't the AHJ, lacks authority for interior entries absent consent or verified emergency, and that suspected hazards should be reported via 911? It's for Thursday's judge. We don't write legal briefs, she said, softer, but we do publish guidance. I'll sign a memo on letterhead, AHJ clarification, when we enter, when we don't, and homeowner steps. You can reference it and a courtesy slot at the hearing. She checked the calendar. I'm on shift. Our prevention deputy might make it. Send the invite. That's enough. One more thing, she added. If someone's using a cloned credential at a private bedroom, that's trespass. Sheriff's lane, not ours. I'll file today. Dana typed for a minute, then printed on the small station printer. Paper hissed out warm. She signed with a blocky HSU and slid the memo across. Copies in your email. I read the first lines. The department is the AHJ. HOAS have no independent authority to compel interior entries, absent resident consent, or verified emergency. Suspected hazards are reported via 911. Residents may request accommodations through appropriate channels. Clean. Clear. We like people who take thresholds seriously, she said. They save us from bad nights. I secured the memo, then dialed the non-emergency number from a laminated card by the phone. The dispatcher took my report, notice, taps, unknown UID, and issued a case number. Deputy callback offered. I accepted. Behind us, a low tone rolled. Boots scuffed. The engine crew moved as one toward the truck. Dana stood. You've got your memo. Get your injunction. I will. My throat tasted like copper from held breath, but my hands were steady. Outside, sirens dopplered faintly across the river. My phone buzzed. Calendar invite for Thursday's hearing. A second buzz. Reed, the locksmith. Can we talk? Not here. I stared a beat, then typed, diner off Highway 9, 20 minutes. Back booth came back almost instantly. I shook Dana's hand. The metal gate clicked as I stepped into the lobby. The radio squawked. The bay passage rose. Sunlight cut a white stripe across the floor. I tucked the memo against my ribs. The pull bar was warm on the way out. Street heat hit like a wall. I pocketed the case number, reached for my keys, and headed for the diner. The diner breathed cold air and fryer heat as I stepped in. Chrome trim, cracked vinyl, a pie carousel turning. Reed sat in the back booth, shoulders caved toward a mug gone gray. He looked like a man holding 2 stories and losing both. You came, he said. His foot found the metronome, heel to metal, heel to metal. I said 20 minutes. I slid in. Captain Shu's memo pressed cool through the folder. What's on your mind? He lifted the mug, set it down. This isn't how work is supposed to run. How is it running? He checked the server, then the neon open sign. Management sent a spreadsheet. Voluntary interior checks. Bedrooms listed. A column. Verify egress, smoke, bed placement. They told me to clone 3 cards for consistency checks and test panels on the schedule. Master credentials. They called them facility fobs. Said common areas, but the sheet had bedrooms. I asked for a custody log. Sonia said, We'll track internally. No sign out. Who asked you to touch my door? Text from Sonia. 2-hour window. No one home. Confirm access. I push back. She said the board approved emergency procedures and we'd be covered. I tapped your daughter's lock once. It opened. I told myself it was a test. He stared past me. I shouldn't have gone back for the second. The second tap hit after the orange tag. He nodded, shame pulling his mouth tight. Karen wanted confirmation post notice. She wanted to prove non-compliance. Do you have the texts? He turned his phone. I emailed screenshots to myself. Timestamps, numbers, the spreadsheet. Encoder logs too. Writes and test, UIDs. I didn't alter anything, Grease hissed. A spoon chimed glass. The booth's vinyl, stuck to my forearm. Read, this matters. Bedrooms aren't test beds. I can subpoena, but I'd rather you send voluntarily. If I send, I lose my contract. If you don't, you may lose more when this hits court. I kept my voice low. My system preserved both taps. The fire memo says the HOA isn't the authority for interior entries. Your logs tie decision makers to the door. That's chain of events, not opinion. He pinched his nose. I asked for a ledger. I asked for written policy. They told me to move. You can fix part of this. Email the screenshots to me and to your counsel. Zip the encoder logs. Write a short statement. Who asked, what you were told, what you did, and custody concerns. No editorials, just facts. He looked at me, eyes red at the rims. You'll protect my name? I can file under seal for the injunction, but at some point, you'll be visible. I won't lie. I can anchor everything in the math, so pressure lands on policy, not you. He nodded slowly. One more thing. The fobs. They're backdoor enabled, magic cards. Sonia said they were temporary utilities and should stay in the van. Karen wanted one in the office drawer. Is one in the office now? Unless someone moved it. That hit like a latch click in my chest. Note that in your statement. Location, who had keys to the drawer. He thumbed through photos, then tapped, sent. Subject, custody questions. I CC'd myself. My phone buzzed. Thumbnails bloomed. Text from Sonia, a sheet named VOL_INTERIOR_WALK.XLSX. Encoder logs with timestamps that hug my own, like overlapping heartbeats. Heat I didn't show moved under my sternum. You did right, I said. He shook his head. I did wrong, then I did less wrong. People are pressure systems, I said. They don't fail the way slogans think. Doesn't feel heroic. It's not. It's necessary. He shut his eyes, opened them. If they call, I wasn't here. You were eating pie, I said, and you paid cash. He let out a real breath. Adrian, make it stop at bedrooms. That's the plan. I slid from the booth. Thursday courtroom. If they push, the room will watch the tap live. He nodded, smaller and cleaner all at once. I left money. The vinyl released me with a soft tack. Outside, neon hum thinned into cicadas. The folder under my arm felt less like paper and more like a lever. I headed for home. I got as far as my driveway before the plan stiffened in my hands. Home could wait. I backed out. Texted the Cedar Row collab. After hours tech room, 1 hour block, key code please, and rolled on while dusk soaked the street. The code pinged, 4 digits and a pound. I took the corner slow, felt the tires hum, kept Reed's emails alive on the dash. The collab sat behind the pharmacy, glass on brick, lights low. I keyed in, recycled air met the heat like two, hands pressing. The tech room held 6 tables, a hum of routers, the sweet metal smell of power supplies. I dropped my folder, unzipped a case, and laid out the bench twin of my daughter's lock beside a small form-factor PC, a second camera, and a tiny LED display I trusted more than some people. I started with time. GPS pucked to the window, NTP sources in a chain, stratum pegged. The LED rolled seconds like beads. My chest matched them. Then the mirror, a clean tunnel to the off-site vault, verified with a handshake that made the checksum field bloom green. I fed the collab's fiber through a limiter so no one could mutter about network influence. It was frictionless. Dashboard next. 3 panes, hallway video, live access log, rolling SHA 256 that would flare if touched. A fourth box for a UID watch list. Any facility-coded magic would trigger an event tile and a chime low enough to hear in a courtroom without making a scene. I set alerting to write first, then notify. The room smelled faintly of ozone. Work was happening. Reed's attachments waited. I opened the spreadsheet in sandbox mode. VOL_INTERIOR_WALK. Cells. Marching bedrooms, times, initials. I didn't linger. I hashed the file, exported the digest, and pinned it to tonight's chain so no one could argue what I'd seen. His encoder logs walked in step with my taps from Tuesday. Overlapping heartbeats. I nested them in a folder labeled with the case number from the station. My phone buzzed. Maya. Be home by 9? The pencil ladder flashed in my head, graphite soft and stubborn. I'll tuck you in, I typed. 3 dots pulsed, then, K, love you. I let the phone settle face down. I built one last thing, a read-only share that could be projected in court without giving anyone right access. Keys were one way, screens were one way. Look, don't touch. I tested it by connecting from my laptop, then from the Colab loaner. Both sessions watched, neither could change a thing. I wrote a note. Demonstration will be demonstration, not debate. The HVAC clicked lower. Somewhere a soda machine coughed. I ran a dry run, tapped the bench lock with my sacrificial fob, watched the UID bloom, watched the checksum advance, watched the mirror echo back. No lag. If someone tried my daughter's interior while we were under oath, the room would see it at the speed of copper. I printed a single page, a diagram of the data path, arrows you could follow with a finger, and slid it into the folder between Captain Shu's memo and Reed's screenshots. I didn't need to be clever. I needed a judge to nod because clarity left no room for wiggle. 2 students peeked in, whispered, vanished. I locked the opening anyway. I thought of Karen's pen making crisp lines, of Martin's marker clicking for courage, of Sonia's operational detail brushing against people's beds. The building creaked, the LED ticked. I set the watch list to shout if the office drawer fob. Reed mentioned ever came near my address. A final system check ran clean. I zipped the case, killed the room lights, and stood in the glow of the dashboard's standby blue. The promise under that passageway rode my shoulders like a steady weight, the kind you stop noticing until someone tries to take it. I powered the display down, palmed the drives, and opened the door to a thinner night. Pharmacy lights honeyed the sidewalk. I locked the Colab behind me, felt the bolt throw. 9 wasn't far. I headed home to tuck my daughter in, plan humming like quiet current. Tomorrow we'd turn signatures into structure. Tonight, I wanted her sleep easy. I got home by 9, tucked Maya under her quilt, and traced the pencil ladder on her panel frame with my fingertip. Her breathing settled. The house exhaled. I left the hall light low and stepped back into the night with the folder under my arm and Captain Shu's memo riding shotgun against my ribs. Mr. Duran's kitchen smelled like onions and lemon cleaner. A ceiling fan ticked. The laminate table wore a coffee ring map. He'd cleared a space beside a corkboard where blue painter's tape held a rough timeline, orange tags, phone screenshots, and scribbled times. Mrs. Patel stood with her phone open to a text thread. Jamal leaned on the counter, arms folded. Lila dozed on a chair with a knit cap pulled low. We'll keep this simple, I said, setting my folder down. Short statements, just what happened, when, and who spoke. No diagnoses, no speculation. Sign and date Mr. Duran, slid a pen across. I can do 5 families tonight. Good. I laid out pre-printed templates and a little checklist. Address, date, exact words at the opening, any witnesses, photo of the notice with the house number plate visible. Attach porch photos. Email the packet to yourself for a time-stamped copy Mrs. Patel read from her phone. Voluntary walkthrough, interior bedroom egress verification, final attempt. Same message, same day. Perfect, I said. Forward that to me, BCC yourself. Keep the original. The ice maker knocked once, then groaned. I taped my own notice photo to the board and drew an arrow to a handwritten line. Tap number 1, tap number 2. Underneath, the hash digest in thick marker. Jamal's eyes tracked the numbers like they could steady him. "You're really putting this in front of a judge?" he asked. "Thursday," I said. "Live demonstration. If they touch my daughter's barrier during the hearing, the room will see it." Mrs. Patel's jaw flexed. "I'm tired of feeling watched in my own home." "We fix it with light and paper," I said. Not yelling. I opened my laptop and drafted 2 preservation letters, one to the management company, one to the HOA board, direct, dated, and specific. Retain all communications, spreadsheets, work orders, key custody records, encoder logs, and fobs relating to interior checks, especially bedrooms. I cited spoliation consequences, listed examples, VOL_INTERIOR_WALK.XLSX, encoder write logs, and attach Captain H-Shoe's memo as context. Printer hummed, warm pages slid out. I scanned each with my phone to the mirror, then sealed hard copies in labeled envelopes. "Process server?" Mr. Duran asked. "I've got a runner on call. I'll queue these for morning service and email copies tonight," I said. "Subpoena Deuce's Tecum drafts are ready for Halverson Lock and Safe and the management company. Counsel will file them when the clerk confirms the hearing docket." From the living room, a TV burbled at low volume. Lila stirred. Jamal draped a light blanket over her knees. I kept my voice soft, like the room was a chapel. "Next," I said, "affidavits." I handed Mrs. Patel a fresh sheet. "Write the exact phrase the clipboard person used when you refused entry. Voluntary and final attempt on the same tag matters." She wrote with fast, careful strokes. Mr. Duran signed his, then pressed his palm flat to the page like he could push it deeper into the world. I stepped to the corkboard and sketched a clean ladder. Left column for tags, middle for porch words, right for any taps or unusual activity. "Send me anything that hits these boxes. Timestamp your uploads. I'll align them to the dashboard so the pattern can't wriggle." Jamal pointed to a photo. "They knocked during chemo." "I remember," I said. "We'll capture it without the medical details. The fact of the knock and their words are enough." My phone buzzed. Mirror integrity. Clean. I let myself take the smallest breath. Not a victory dance. A check mark. "Low-impact testing," I said. "Tonight I'll run quiet heartbeat pings from the collab. Observation only. Tomorrow, if you're up for it, stand by the entry and film when a voluntary notice hits. Leave the room closed. Give the date and time, then describe the scene. No debates, no names." Mrs. Patel nodded. "Can do." I packed signed affidavits into slipcovers, scanned them to the mirror, and returned originals to each neighbor. The fan ticked. The fridge sighed. We moved like people learning a new ritual. "Last piece," I said. "I'm sending artifact lists to their counsel tonight. If anyone asks you to redo paperwork or hand over original notices, say you've preserved them and that all communication should go through counsel. You're not refusing. You're protecting the record." Mr. Duran lifted his chin. "Feels different when it's written down." "Writing's a kind of fence," I said. "Keeps the goats out." That got the first thin smiles I'd seen all evening. I sealed the envelopes, stacked them by the passage, and powered down the laptop. The corkboard held, a small, stubborn wall against a bigger one. "Thank you," Mrs. Patel said, eyes wet, voice steady. "We're close," I said. "Tomorrow we switch from collecting to showing." I stepped into the humid night with paper under my arm and order in my hands. The block smelled like cut grass and cooling brick. Across the dark street, porch lights blinked into a quiet constellation. The pattern was almost ready to be seen by people who didn't want to see it. I locked the evidence bag in my trunk and felt the latch catch clean. The night pressed warm against my neck. I didn't point the car home. I rolled to the community pool after hours when the property felt most honest. The chain-link gate clicked under my fob. Chlorine rode the air like a memory of summers that hadn't asked for permission. Sodium lamps washed the deck in dull amber. Water lapped, slow and even. I set my case on a picnic table, opened the lid, and woke the dashboard I'd built at the collab. Hallway video pane, live access log, rolling checksum, UID watchlist armed, time first. GPS puck blinked a steady green heartbeat. NTP stratum held. Mirror handshake came back clean, two-way. I slid Captain H. Shoe's memo into the folder's front sleeve in case anyone wandered over with thoughts about authority. No one did. A moth found the lamp and drummed itself into a circle. Somewhere beyond the fence, a compressor cycled with a low, reliable thrum. The community feed pinged my phone. Reminder: voluntary interior walkthroughs. Continue this week. Thank you for your cooperation. Voluntary read like a warning label. I took a photo of the screen with the pool clock over my shoulder and hashed it into tonight's chain. The log window ticked through quiet minutes. Maintenance doorway pings at the clubhouse. Mail kiosk swipes. Nothing from my street. I dialed the alert to paper first, notify second. When it fired, it would write, mirror, seal, and then speak. I kept my breathing even. The smell of wet concrete and bleach sat heavy in my nose. The deck's rough aggregate pressed through my soles. A dragonfly skated the water's skin. The watch list flashed amber, test ping from my bench unit. I dismissed it. Another moth tattooed a figure 8. I felt the promise under Maya's entrance crease into my shoulders, steady and unshowy. I pictured the pencil ladder, the star at 5 feet, the mark that came a week before, goodbye. The pool light buzzed, the log ticked. The night didn't care, which made it easier to see what mattered. At 10:37:14, the UID watch list bled red. A chime, low and certain, rolled through the speaker. The access log stamped an event. Non-resident facility code, geometry matching a back passage-enabled fob at my daughter's interior. The hallway video pane didn't show a face, just the edge of a forearm sliding into frame. A gloved hand like a refusal to be real. The lock's status changed. Contact, reject, then contact again. The checksum advanced and wrote to the mirror. The TSA timestamp token sealed in. I didn't exhale until the second chime died. I screen captured the 3 panes as they moved, not frozen stills, but living seconds. A receipt printer in the case ticked out the digest. Ugly narrow paper, perfect for court. I signed the first line with my initials and slid it into a sleeve behind the memo. The phone hummed a moment later. Mirror integrity, clean. Small victory, no celebration. Drop a like if you've ever wanted to stand up to unreasonable rules like this. Another line landed at 10:38:02. Post-event management message on the feed. Thank you to our vendors for ensuring safety compliance after hours. After hours scratched the inside of my ribs. I photographed it against the pool clock and hashed it into the chain. The water took a breath and gave it back. My hand stayed steady because steady was the only way this worked. Headlights nosed along the far lane and moved on. The night reset. I annotated the event in the ledger. Tap attempt number 3 pre-hearing, non-resident UID, dual contact, reject second, live sealed. I added reads encoder log cross-reference so the sequence could braid in court. I printed the read-only dashboard URL and QR onto a single-page handout. Judges liked seeing where the river ran before they drank. I closed the case long enough to listen. Cicadas stitched the hedge. The pump room thudded once and settled. When the deck felt like it would hold, I opened again, replayed the 8 seconds, and let myself feel the click, the one that meant the plan had turned from theory into structure. Hearing rooms could argue words. Math would stand up without me. I powered down in order: dashboard, mirror tunnel, GPS, puck. The sodium lamps hummed as if they'd been waiting to be excused. I latched the case, wiped condensation from the table, and slid the folder back under my arm. On the way out, I photographed the pool rules sign, the lock on the gate, and the empty deck at 10:45 with the event digest in frame. Little corroborations made big lies slip. The gate clicked behind me. My shoes whispered on asphalt. Tomorrow, we'd sanitize the truth in public, with our neighbors, with a judge, with the tap that thought night could hide it. I set the case on the passenger seat, checked the mirror one last time, and watched the green light hold steady like a promise keeping itself. The green mirror light rode shotgun while I drove. I left the case on the passenger seat, rolled downtown, parked under the courthouse before the doors unlocked, and watched night leak into gray. I carried the folder and followed the bailiff's nod into Department 3. Karen Drummond sat at respondent table with Sonia and Martin, a lawyer between them, arranging binders like shields. Reed drifted into the second row, hat in his hands. Captain Heshu's deputy took a bench near the aisle. Judge Eleanor Brandt took the bench, and the room shrank to wood. Preliminary injunction, the clerk said. Cole versus Cedar Row, HOA. I stood. Your Honor, I'm a homeowner and a security engineer. The association claims an emergency clause authorizes interior checks. Bedrooms? I've preserved logs, photos, and a memo from the fire department clarifying authority. She looked over her glasses. We'll proceed in parts. Mr. Cole, show me the least words possible. Yes, ma'am. I set the read-only laptop on the cart, connected HDMI, and mirrored the dashboard, hallway video pane, live access log, rolling checksum. No one can edit this, I said. They can only watch. The fire official raised a hand. For clarity, the department is the AHJ. HOAS don't conduct interior fire inspections. We enter with emergency conditions or lawful authority. We weren't contacted, noted, the judge said. The HOA's lawyer rose. We acted for safety. Sit, the judge said. You'll speak after foundation. I tapped a key. Sequence from Tuesday. Notice posted, then 2 taps on my daughter's lock by a non-resident credential. The hallway video rolled. Arm edge, glove, the status light flaring and failing. Chain of custody verified by the checksum. Does the association contest authenticity? Judge Brandt asked. The lawyer shuffled. We reserve. Reserve isn't filibuster, she said. Next. This dashboard is live now. Any tap on that barrier will appear in real time. Karen's pen stopped. Sonia's throat worked. Reed looked down hard enough to crease his hat. The judge leaned forward. And a master fob exists? Backdoor-enabled utility cards were issued without a custody ledger, I said. We'll subpoena encoder logs. A vendor spreadsheet listing bedrooms is in my bundle. Counsel? She asked. Sonia's lawyer said, Operational matters. Bedrooms aren't operational, the judge cut in. They're private. The clock clicked. Fluorescence hummed. My pulse settled into a metronome. The speaker gave a low chime. Every head turned. On the screen, the access log stamped a new event. 10-12-43, non-resident facility code, geometry matching a magic card. The hallway pane showed the door frame, the same slice of carpet, a gloved hand slipping into view. The lock flashed reject, then contact again. The checksum advanced, the mirror flag glowed green. Reed flinched. Sonia whispered, "Oh," and stopped. The judge's voice went flat. Is someone attempting entry at this moment? Yes, Your Honor. That's my house. That's my daughter's door. The bailiff moved to the side phone. Sheriff, he said into the receiver, possible trespass in progress. Live video, courtroom 3. Karen's lawyer tried to stand. The judge lifted a palm. Sit. She turned to Sonia. Who has access to any so-called master fob right now? Sonia's face drained. The office drawer. Staff, name them. She named 2. Reed swallowed and added quietly, There's a third key. The judge wrote, 3 names. Order, effective immediately, no agent of the association or its vendors shall approach Mr. Cole's dwelling or interior without his consent or a warrant. Surrender any master credentials to the sheriff by noon. Counsel will draft. We'll reconvene after lunch for argument. Thank you, I said, more air than words. The bailiff handed me a slip with a deputy en route. The screen went quiet. The log stayed steady. I powered nothing down. I wanted the room to keep watching. Karen stared at the table as if it might open. Martin's hands were white on the binder rings. The lawyer whispered and was no one I needed to hear. Judge Brandt stood. Court in recess. I exhaled and felt the case handle release my fingers. The promise under that doorway moved from my ribs to the record. We weren't done. We were, at last, visible. The bailiff called us back. The dashboard was still live. The last red event sat on screen like a thumbprint no one could rub off. Judge Brandt returned. "I'm ready to rule," she said, and the room leaned. "Injunction granted," she read. "No interior entries by the association, agents, or vendors absent consent or warrant. Immediate surrender of any master credentials to the sheriff by noon. Preserve all records, communications, spreadsheets, encoder logs, custody lists. Violations will be sanctioned." She signed. The order hit the docket. The HOA lawyer rose. "Safety. You'll be heard after compliance," the judge said. Reed's hat bent in his hands. Sonia stared at the tabletop. Karen didn't look up. We recessed. In the corridor, a deputy took a key ring and 2 gray fobs into evidence envelopes. "Drawer?" he asked. Sonia nodded. He logged the time. The chain of custody started walking away from them. By late afternoon, the sheriff had collected the office fob, and a second the vendor produced with shaking fingers. I provided the read-only link for their report. The judge reconvened to memorialize compliance and set a briefing schedule on policy and fees. The order had teeth now. You could feel them. Evening brought us to the community green, an amphitheater cut into grass and shade trees. People filled the curved benches, neighbors who'd spent a summer being told their thresholds were common. A portable speaker popped and settled. I set my case beside a stone plinth and took the mic. "I'm Adrian," I said. "I promised my wife I'd guard one room like a life." Today the court said what we knew. Interior bedrooms aren't inspection zones. Applause came ragged, then strong. I kept it plain. Here's what changes. 1 slide. No interior checks without consent or a real emergency verified by public authorities. Any access device needs written authorization, purpose, and assigned custody log. Management will publish notice standards, who, when, why, and conduct hearings with clean agendas and time for residents to speak. The fire department? Is the AHJ suspect a hazard? Call 911. The board will post a draft policy next week and vote in open session. Reed stood behind the benches, cap off. He lifted a hand. "I asked for a ledger," he said. "I'm sorry I tapped the door." I sent the logs. Heads turned. Several people nodded and faced forward again. No jeers. Karen and Martin stayed near the walkway with counsel and didn't take the mic. Sonia sat with her hands folded. The management rep read a short statement about cooperation, policy adoption, and vendor training. Careful, but enough for now. I fielded questions, accommodations, agendas, what to do if anyone arrived without notice. Answers were practical. Forms, addresses, keep the door closed, and ask for the clause in writing. The deputy pinned a hotline card to a corkboard by the ice chest and stepped back into shade. The projector washed out against the sky, but the message didn't need brightness. People were already forming small committees, safety, notices, translation for elders, work that would outlast me. I looked at Maya near the front, sketchbook open, pencil moving. The amphitheater lights clicked on and drew a soft ring around her. The promise under that doorway eased. It didn't vanish. When the meeting thinned, I closed with the part that keeps reforms honest. "We'll audit for a month," I said, "then publish numbers, requests, notices, response times, so we can see if the new rules live like they read. Transparency keeps us honest." A few claps, mostly nods. I felt the neighborhood reset, quieter, firmer, aware of its borders. We weren't celebrating. We were setting a line we could measure. I packed the case. Maya slipped her hand in mine. "Can we go?" she asked. "Yeah," I said. "Home." At the edge of the green, I faced my phone's lens and kept it plain. If stories like this help you push back on overreach, subscribe to follow the series, and drop your HOA experience in the comments so we can map the patterns. Sprinklers hissed along far edge. We walked toward the sidewalk, toward the doorframe, waiting for her next mark, toward a house that remembered how to keep its own.